Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this episode of Inlay Terms. I'm your host, Payman Ascari, and today with us we have my friend and fellow PPC candidate, Mr. Michael Bator. How are you doing, Michael?
I'm doing really good, having a good day. It's kind of happy to be here. Sorry I missed you when we were driving across that fire in Kelowna. Payman and I were supposed to meet up, but the fire in Kelowna chased us out, so we were just a little too fast for him there, I think. So it's really good to catch up with you now.
Yeah, it's a long time in the making, this episode. Um, Michael, let's to get things started. Can you tell the audience a little about yourself?
I'm a software engineer, designer, architect-y kind of guy, in contracting with companies like BMO, Royal Bank, Manulife, those type of big companies, and some small ones as well. And from a personal point of view, I play piano and guitar and sing, and I used to play in a band, and I love it. And we used to always, get together before COVID every few months, and we'd get together and play. And I coached for 22 years, so I really loved coaching the kids. But then somewhere in 2020, things started to go awry, as you know. And I started to feel really uncomfortable with what was going on. I started to protest a bit. I started to follow people, donate to a couple of causes here and there, either by buying swag or direct cash donations. It just wasn't enough. What really tipped me was the vax sports, seeing the suicides going up with the young kids. I mean, during COVID, I coached two teams because the other coaches just wouldn't do it. And it was so important to get the kids out of the house and active again, seeing all those skyrocketing suicide. But once they started to push the jab, that gene therapy experiment, and, force the population to be in the, what, I don't know, experiment 3 level human experiments, that freaked me out. I just I just thought that's what really set it off. And then I saw on Twitter, Maxime needed some candidates. I'd seen him at Queen's Park a few months earlier, and I decided that I need to do something else. I can't trust someone else to do something for me, and I have to do something. So that's basically why I ran, because I don't trust anybody else, and somebody's got to do something, and I can't unsee it. So that's kind of who I am and how I got here.
Before 2020, were you this same person? Were you politically involved, or was this something completely new to you?
I was only politically involved off and on. I really liked Mayor Hazel McCallion when I was in high school. I was a huge fan. Once I went to university, I kind of started to drop off having kids, and you just kind of read the policy super quick or picked up a soundbite. Um, I don't know if I'm independent, but I did vote NDP once. I voted Liberal once, and primarily Conservative. Um, and I had no idea really about Max in 2019. Like I said, I just wanted to coach kids. I love having fun, teaching the kids, and having fun with my friends. So yeah, I wasn't really that politically motivated. Just a couple of times I got involved with Hazel McCallion, and I was excited about Mike Harris, and I always liked Joe Clark because my dad was kind of political. But just few periods of time, the Chrétien reform years, I was a little bit more active, or at least aware of what was going on. But honestly, like 2019, like no. I was totally not tuned in at all. Last minute voter, kind of thing.
You mentioned you noticed the suicide rates were going up, sort of the vaccine passports and the mandates. Was there any specific thing that kind of like woke you up or shocked you out of your slumber?
I don't know if it was a shock out of a slumber as much as it was putting your foot in the water and then putting it in a little deeper and then a little deeper, and then boom, you're in, and then you can't get out. Right, like it's almost like quicksand that way. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. So for me, suspicions were around May 2020. April-ish, just suspicious. Like, hey, doesn't make sense. Like Mike micron, 3 microns, and 100 microns in a mask. And then, running into people that are actually in the hazmat for Toronto Fire Department, like my brother-in-law. Uh, Immediately, when you weren't putting things in hazmat and treating things properly, peeling off your hazmat suits, that totally triggered a red flag off right off the bat. He ended up, I believe, getting the first one, but then he started to realize that, whoa, hold on, something's wrong. And I think I was kind of waking up around the same time. Like, you're just kind of like, well, no, can't, they would never do that. What? Maybe. I don't. And you just keep rolling and rolling with the facts that come to you. So I would say I was pretty PO'd by around November 2020 and getting a lot more active, and like as the time went, more rallies, more following items and people and events. So I would have to say I kind of snowballed after 2020 from a kind of uppy downy kind of political interest. I just wanted to be left alone, honestly. Seriously, just leave me alone. And they just wouldn't leave me alone. They poked me. And now I just can't stop until this is over. We have to have some accountability for this.
Right. Um, you ran in 2019, correct?
No, 2019, I was still the guy that didn't want to be bugged. I want you to leave me alone. I'm playing hockey with the guys. I'm coaching kids, having fun. Stay out of my face. Then they wouldn't. So 2019, still not very politically aware. And I probably voted for Scheer, right? Not knowing any better, just because I didn't like Trudeau. I wasn't really voting anybody in. I was voting against somebody. So that was me, 2019. How about yourself?
No, actually, I'm much more novice than you are. I just got announced candidate last year, I believe in September, maybe August. Um, I did vote for the PPC. I think I voted for them in 2019. I definitely voted for them in one of the elections, so it might have been 2022, the second one. But I did my research, and I was like, the conservatives, their website was garbage. The PPC was transparent, and I'm like, I'm a researcher. I'm going to vote for what I can, research and understand. Um, but the reason I asked, so you ran in 2022? Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, I learned my lesson from Patricia last night. My mic's pretty hot, so I gotta,
It's okay.
yeah, I gotta turn her off and on. So your question was again?
You ran in the last election, 2022.
Yes, it was August 2021. I think it
Oh,
was like August September 21st was the election or something like that. Because the next day they put the Vaxports in. Right, I always remember that. And then just a lot of good times there. But I ran there, and then I also uh, felt we still needed to do something, right? So Burlington started off with no riding association. And then I set out to build one with the people that we had, and we had a town hall right away in probably October, November-ish, because everyone's freaking out about the vax sports, not being able to go to the restaurant. Oh, I can't play sports. A lot of protests, a lot of standing with people, a lot of going to the pop-up kid vaccine things and protesting, handing out flyers to warn parents. So it was pretty crazy then. Everyone said, what do we do now? And I said that we're going to find our tribe. We're going to support like-minded people. And we're going to find all those people that feel alone and have been cast out of society, and we're going to find them. And we're going to give them comfort, and we're going to go after every office that we can. We're going to hope that people in this room, people that we find, are going to run for trustee, counselors, MP. I'll run for the MP, MPP. And that's the way we did it. And then we formed the Burlington Riding Association from that town hall there. And then we had a banner year in 2022. We're, I believe, the top fundraisers for 2022. It was just an amazing thing. We had so many amazing people that we met. We got people that would have sat alone on Christmas or been alone over the holidays, bringing those people together, that was an amazing thing. And then the sad things were when you do hear somebody say, "Oh my gosh, that third lockdown," and then their daughter commits suicide. I mean, those are the other parts of it that were really sad. So that kind of brought me through there. And then from the canvassing and campaigning point of view, my experience started again with the Mississauga Lakeshore. So we had a Mississauga Lakeshore by-election. It's right next to me, only 5-10 minutes away. So I contributed to that, and it gave me an idea to write an app. So I've been starting to write an app for myself so that I can track the canvassing and map it out and try to figure out where my vote is. So that's where that was born. And then I canvassed for 31 days in a row, 6 to 12 hours for Max in Manitoba. I learned tons there, knocked on a couple thousand doors. It was an amazing experience. It really taught me about how much more we need to do in Burlington to be successful. And yeah, I remember doing a video call with the board, right? We had our board meeting, and I brought them to the office and showed them things, talked to Max for a bit, and everyone was really excited. But we do know that we have a lot more work to do. So, and then I've also helped out in other campaigns in Durham as well. I miss the St. Paul's. I had previous engagements with fundraisers and a couple other events, so I was unable to go down there. But that's my journey so far, is building the riding with a great bunch of people, and canvassing every day I possibly can in my riding. This summer, hit about 1,500 doors, and last year with Max, I went crazy. So that's my experience so far with the PPC.
So people in the audience, if they're watching this and they're just shy people, they're scared, they don't want to, stick their head up. What possessed you? Like what gave you the courage to do this? Because it's very difficult.
I've been kind of like a crazy kid since I was little. I've always been the type of kid that even when I was like 3, 4, 5, even like every age, I would just talk to strangers all the time. So for me, it was kind of more of a natural thing. But I do know some people that have gotten into it because they felt the need to do it. And the suggestion for them, as I was talking with them, or they were like, "Hey, I've never spoke before." Really, honestly, it's just being as genuine as you possibly can. And it's like, I don't know if you ever played sports, but like if you're at bat and you're worrying too much and you're holding the bat too tight, you're not going to be able to roll your wrists or get your elbows going. You got to just relax. That's really the key. Relax and be genuine. Right. And it's okay if you read your speech. I don't read speeches. I usually run them through my head and then just pick pieces all the time when I go, or I'll take point form. But there's nothing to be shy about. Honestly, it's just the unknown, and the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. And I would just practice every chance you get. Like honestly, it's not as hard as it seems. Honestly, like you get a couple under your belt and you're ready to rock and roll, and then you fine tune it.
All right. Well, let's test out your memory. See how well you remember 2021. When you went door to door and you were talking to the voters, what were the, issues top of mind for them?
Government overreach was definitely a number one topic. People losing their jobs because of the mandates. And then you had other ones saying that, you're crazy, you're going to kill us all, you're going to kill grandma. So you had some of that at the doors, which really was like, no, I'm not talking to you. So it's a bit different than canvassing now. Um, and then one interesting story, I always remember this one. It just comes back to it. I'm downtown Brant Street, so it's your typical downtown with your restaurants, your shops, and it goes to the lake, and then there's a boardwalk. So it's that kind of area, right? And I'm canvassing, kind of busking the streets, walking around Spencer Smith, up and down Brant. Meet this kid. He's about 35, 30 something, and calls me racist because of our immigration policy. And I said, well, can you tell me who slandered who with racism? You're racist. Well, do you have an example of that? Right? Like, is it because of immigration and math is racist? And that was it. And then I went to go to a really good guy, flipping a sign from Emily Brown to Michael Bator. Uh, I go to pull up and we change the sign. And then I was dropping back with a gift for his daughter a couple days later because she went with the postman to deliver some of the flyers. It was a really great experience. It's on Rumble there. Great memory, great memory. So I go to his place. He's renting at the moment, trying to save up for a place, right? The Canadian dream, you know, rent for a bit, save up, work really hard, and then you get your down payment. So he's in that situation. His renter comes in. His renter is a guy who emigrated here or immigrated here in the late 70s, early 80s from India. Spent a couple of years in the UK. It wasn't working out so good in the 80s there. He came here. When he came here, actually, so I'll tell you his story in a second, but his reaction to the same policy of immigration and having sustainable, manageable immigration, not mass immigration, mass invasion immigration, things that stress out your healthcare, stress out your infrastructure, stress out your housing market. Not that type of immigration, the type of immigration that's built on meritocracy. So when he saw it, I'm like, oh my gosh, here's this guy from Brampton. He's an Indian. That's it. I thought the white kid was going to rip my head off, but now I'm going to get the knockout punch. That was the first thing he commented on. And he told me his story. He said, wow, I can't believe someone's actually going to do something about immigration. And I'm like, just taken aback. I think we even had a beer and a smoke that night because it was a biker buddy. So he's telling me a story coming over. He had to have a sponsor, right? He had to be either have a sponsor on a skills list. He had to be able to speak English, a whole bunch of requirements. And there was no handouts. So when he came, he had 500 pounds. He stayed with his sponsor. It was his cousin or uncle. Stayed in a basement apartment for about 5 years, like worked like dogs 7 days a week, saving up. They got a house, they, fixer-uppers, and then they used their labor to bring the value up. Then they would rent it. And they repeated this for 5 years until they each could have a house and a rental house. And then they just kept working together. And now they own about 4 or 5 houses each. So he's pissed that these people are coming in, driving down wages for his kids, getting handouts out of his pocket when he had to work 24, you're exaggerating the 24/7, but you get those 12-hour days, 7 days a week. I know it because my own father-in-law has his own immigration story about working that hard and getting the Canadian dream. So that's why he was mad. Anybody that was here before Trudeau and knows what Canada is and what they came and what they left understands the jeopardy of our culture, our way of life, and the standard of living. So immigration was huge. That was my big story from there. Not that everybody talked about it, but that story stood out. After getting the tongue lashing from the white 50 generation Canadian to the first generation Canadian who moved over and had his kids here and bought a house, right? Totally, an Indian guy. So that stands out huge. All the other ones are overreach, pretty much. Nobody was talking about carbon tax. Nobody was talking about anything. They were talking about COVID, and they were talking about government overreach. That was pretty much, in a nutshell, what most conversations were.
It segues pretty well into my first question, which is on immigration. Uh, let's just decouple it from race, whatever the skin color, ethnicity. Why are we bringing in? Why is the Liberal government bringing in this many people?
Well, I would have to say it feels like they're trying to drive down wages. It feels like they're trying to manufacture a crisis, right? Like there's just too many bad decisions in a row. The other theories out there, because I'm not settled on how I think exactly, but another theory is that they're votes, right? Securing a future block of votes, and you see them all pandering. Pierre's out there with his dunce cap or whatever that one meme was, right? And they're all pandering. And so I think the mass immigration is to, I can't think of anything other than stupidity that is destabilizing our country. It's causing our standard of living to go down. And I don't see any logical reason for it, except unless it's something like COVID, where we had the greatest transfer of wealth, right? Like, is that what they're trying to do? Is they're trying to have a forced manufactured crisis to steal your money and buy your property on pennies on the dollar, right? Controlling it. Like, I don't know if it's that evil and that cynical. I don't know. Like, why else would you do this to destroy your country? It's obviously hurting the country. Why would you legalize drugs and then encourage them to do it? Why? Because you're selling them the drugs and your buddies are making the money off it? Like, I don't know. What would the motivations be behind that? What are your thoughts on that? Because to me, it's just destructive policy after destructive policy. I can't figure out the exact motive except potentially greed.
I mean, I just, my innocent mind cannot comprehend how all liberal MPs could hate their country so much that they're trying to destroy it. So the only reason I could think of is they've mismanaged the economy and we're out, like there's no economy left. So they're just importing these people and they're like, you know, they have to pay a fee up front for immigration and then they're buying goods and services here. Like that's the only way I can rationalize it. And even I don't believe that.
Yeah, that's a logical, pragmatic approach to it. But after COVID, I'm starting to think a little deeper down the rabbit hole sometimes, right? Like, is somebody profiting off keeping housing prices so high? Somebody money laundering money? Is somebody like, there has to be higher motivations. I have no idea what they are. Hey, maybe it's foreign interference to destabilize our country and steal our resources. Like, I mean, everything's on the table after COVID, if you ask me. Not that they're all true, but they a lot more credence to things I thought were crazy before. Now I actually consider. I don't know about you, but pre 2019, half the stuff that I know now, I would have thought I was nuts and told myself to where to go or something like, yeah, buddy, no, that's no way. And now, after what I've seen, now I'm more open to any possibility to check it out and follow the route. So, uh, the mismanagement, I don't know who. You have to figure out what the motive is, and I can't figure out what the motive is. Right? Like, is it to destroy the country? Is that the motive? Right? To bring the country down and somehow steal the assets, and you will own nothing and be happy. Like, is that true? Right? Because the policies would suggest that you're doing everything wrong, right? You're overspending, you have a deficit, you're running up the credit card like insane, right? Where our interest payments are eating up so much of our GDP and our income, right? Like, why would you do that, right? Like, you're either really stupid or you're stealing, or both. You're stealing and you're stupid. I don't know. Uh, it's a dystopian nightmare, and it's driven by policy. It's policy driven dystopia. And I don't know what the motive is. Like, they all got rich after COVID. So I don't know. Maybe that was the motive for lockdowns. They get rich. I don't know. What do you think? Like, it's just been such a crazy, crazy ride. So many things that were conspiracies are realities. And I think almost anything's on the table. What do you think? Like, take the pragmatic. I'm trying to follow the dots with money and this and that. Like, think a little more Doctor Evil. Like, do you think it's a little more shady, uh, or you
I
think it's
was
just literally greed? Like,
I was laughing there because a lifetime ago, back in 2020, before I got old and ugly and I had gray hair, I was sitting at the beach in Spain with this woman, and we're drinking a beer, and she says to me, "Oh, you know the virus? There's rumors that it came from a lab in China," and I'm like, "That's just a conspiracy theory. There's no way." I'll never forget that. Yeah, I'm never going back there. Yeah.
well, to tell you the truth, I wasn't sure if it would come from a lab or not. But as soon as they came out with the bat story, I'm like, yeah, you guys are lying. Okay, now I know. Now I know you guys are lying. Okay, you could have thought of something better. It's like, you know that thing when you're just not sure and then somebody says something and you're just, oh, boom, the light bulb goes off as soon as they said it wasn't from the lab, and it just jumped to a bat, to a human. No, no, sorry. That's like
Yes.
offering me a donut to get a gene therapy jab.
Yeah, that was, it was a little suspect when they were trying to get people to take the vaccine by giving them like hot dogs, donuts, money, sports tickets. And it wasn't even, it's not even that it woke me up, but it was just really irritating. You know, you're like, just leave me alone. Like, I'm hungover. I don't feel like getting the vaccine. They're like, no, 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 you get a free hot dog. I'm like, I'm hungover. Leave me alone.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you give me some Alka Seltzer, I might think about it. Okay. You give me some Tylenol and some, some electrolytes, maybe some Gatorade. I might think about it. Maybe. No. What it did for me, like, there was just so many red flags. I mean, like, dude, it would be like getting slapped in the face like this. That's how many red flags I felt. It was like when you ride your bike and you put the hockey card in your spokes to make it sound cool. Yeah, that's each spoke hit was a red flag. That's how many of them there were. But the one that got me was the used car salesman. Hey, did you get that used car salesman vibe? Like, you got to act now. Look, I'll
Yeah.
give you this. You got to do it now. Sign right here. You can drive away today. Right? Like, as soon as someone comes on like that, it's an instant no. Like, it's a red flag. Or it's like the car salesman coming up to you and going, hey, how you doing? This is a beauty. It's never been in an accident. Hey, gee, why would you tell me that second item? It's got a convertible. I would have gone with that second. Like, it's just one of those things that made me feel like I was being sold, a bad product or a lemon by a used car salesman. That was a huge red flag. Hey, oh, and how about this one? So one of my friends worked, my sister's friends. I ran into her. She was one of the first ones that discovered the insert. With all the ingredients and the directions for yeah, empty, huge sheet of paper. She unfolded it very dramatically, and it was like bigger than a Bristol board for your science fair, and it was blank both sides. Red flag. How about this for a red flag? You know what, Payman? I'm going to sell you this car. We've never tested it before. Well, we kind of tested it a lot, crashed, but you don't know that because we didn't tell you and we fudged the books. But I got it for you. And guess what? No warranty. Awesome. Just sign here. Sign here. Give me all your money. Take this car that's never been tested and you've never driven and buy it with no warranty. How does that feel, Payman? Does that feel like a red flag to you? Like, here, take the shot. Oh, sign the indemnity away, right? Like, if you can't back your product up, right? That's a huge red flag to me. What red flags did you see? Right? Because obviously the lab one there, you're kind of digesting it, thinking it's crazy. I thought that kind of stuff too. I was a bit unsure. But what were some of your red flags?
It was just the pressure campaign. Mind you, I got COVID back in 2020, and everybody kept telling me to get the vaccine, and I was just kind of like, well, why do I need one? I already got COVID. But they just kept saying, get it, get it, get it, and I was like, all right, fine. And I went to get it. I missed the appointment. I was a little bit late, and then I was like, you know what? I'm such a lazy guy. I don't even want to go. But it just the more they told me to get it, the analogy I give is like imagine you're in a nightclub. Let's say you're a girl, and a guy comes up to you, and he's like, "Here, drink this," and you're like, "What is it?" He's like, "Here, just drink it," and you're like, "No," and he offers you $100 to drink it. You're like, "Hell no!" And he's like, "Drink it, or I'm gonna beat you up," and you're gonna be like, "What the hell?" Trying to get out, and the bouncer's like, if you leave without drinking it, you're not allowed back in here. Like it's just getting more and more suspicious.
Yeah, yeah. Those are huge red flags. Huge red flags. No guarantee, no indemnity. The pressure campaign, the used car salesman pitch. I don't know. I don't know. I remember saying in a few speeches for sure, especially the earlier ones in 2022, about looking and around and going, why can't people see this? Am I the only one? Because at the beginning, right, when we started to build the Burlington Riding Association, it was like a lot of people felt alone. Like my speeches in 2021 were like, I felt alone, didn't you? And then everyone would go crazy, like, yeah. And then you realize that you're really not that alone, and you realize that that's why they wanted to do a lockdown, to disconnect people, right? So I learned a lot during that about the power of connectivity, the energy that people have, and how important it is to have human interactions, right? Like, super invaluable for your mental health, right? Like you saw people being isolated, deteriorating. We had higher mental health issues, right? Telling people not to go in the sun when actually the sun is one of your really helpful mental health helpers, right? Going out in the sun. So telling us to do everything that's wrong kind of freaked me out. That was huge red flags. But it also taught me the importance of family, of people, and it flushed out people that I thought were my friends that aren't, and I have an extended family of friends that I thought I would never have that are awesome. So it's been a mixed blessing, the ride so far. And yeah, those red flags, wow.
So, kind of shifting gears, I want to go back to something you said earlier regarding the interest rate. So, I wanted to get your opinion on um, the economy. So, I'm going to throw some stats at you. The budget, I think our budget for 2024 is like 500 billion. The interest on our debt alone is 50 plus billion. Cumulative debt, I think, is like 300 something percent, 350%, and 20% of the country, the workforce is public sector. Um, how do we turn this ship around, or like, how do we fix this? That seems like a big problem to me.
Well, okay, so I love Hazel McCallion. Hazel McCallion, great lady. I remember one of her speeches saying that I run Mississauga like I run my house. I don't spend what I don't have. Everything I spend, I make sure I get a return. It doesn't always have to be financial return, but it has to be a good return, whether it's enjoyment for families to de-stress, to help with mental health, just being exercise, or whether it's getting, a really great road build that help build the community. Whatever those things are, you evaluate it. You don't spend what you don't have. There's no corporate welfare. I'm not going to go out and sell Mississauga down the road to attract business. You either like Mississauga, you like the roads, you like the transportation, you like the location, or you don't. I just love that attitude. And I think if we brought that attitude back, if you look at your house, like she says, what's the first thing you do? Indiscretionary things, things that aren't as valuable. Okay, drop your Disney, drop your Netflix, right? You don't go out and eat as much. Maybe you have a guy that does your lawn, opens and closes your pool. Maybe you're going to do it yourself, right? You get what I'm saying, right? So you would go after those things first, right? So in our case, I think that we could go after immediately our Netflix, our Disney subscriptions, our useless subscriptions and things that we buy. I think we get rid of foreign aid as much as possible, and that would give us a lot of money back. I would roll back I believe Max is on board too, right? We want to roll back Trudeau's government of 40% growth, and it's things like the Department of Islamophobia, climate cops. We're just wasting hundreds of $1,000s on salaries on stupid things, right? So it's time to put the money to work back in the economy. So if you take all the money out and you try to balance the budget, Canadians shouldn't feel too much, and you might want to cut back. Like who's going to feel the climate thing? Like, hey, dude, you're going to save 50 cents a liter. What? Yeah. Oh, and by the way, too, I just cut millions and millions and millions off the budget. So you're probably not going to see a tax increase, and very likely tax decrease in the next 2-3 years as we get the budget together. So I would grab the money from foreign aid, like Max has said. You cut the stupid woke programs, things that don't benefit you, right? You do what Mayor McCallion said, right? You look at the ROI. Am I getting a return on that? So teaching people not to poop on a beach in Nigeria or whatever that place was, that's not a good use of money. That's like having a Disney subscription right now. You cancel that. You cancel it. Right? So those are the wasted money that we have without even touching any of the other social programs that may be able to be tweaked. Because if we have a stronger economy, there'll be less stress on our social system, like, our social safety net. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on it? Right? There's a lot of money that we're wasting on foreign aid. Endless wars. Teaching people not to poop on a beach. Helping them transition, even though they laugh at you and they know there's only a man and a woman, but you're trying to spend all this money. Like, I don't know. Uh, I think that would be a huge way to get rid of the deficit without even going after social programs. What do you think?
No, I agree with you. I think you put it better than I ever could. I just say, we got to get the country back to what it was like in the 90s, where, you have a man and a woman or, husband, wife, but whoever, like you have a family and you're responsible for that family. You have a business, it's your responsibility. If that business goes under, it's your problem. It's like what you said before, like when immigrants came over, there were no handouts. I don't know what happened. Maybe I was playing too much Call of Duty and I didn't recognize what the government was doing, but this is not sustainable. The way that it's just growing and growing, uh, if the government keeps growing at this rate, and if capital is flowing out of the country because nobody wants to keep their money here and start a business here, like these two, at some point, the country will collapse.
Well, the trajectory, it's definitely on that path. Like, there's just no doubt, right? If you've got out of control deficit spending, your credit card's already getting pretty close to the max. Uh, the last thing you want to do is spend, right? Like, why would you do that? Half your paycheck is going to your credit card interest payment, like, and that's just gone. You're not even paying principal. So if you think of it like your house, it's easy to fix in a sense. I mean, there's so many departments, so many places, and so many ways that you would do it in a huge, massive organization. But the concept's as simple as Hazel said: treat it like your house. If your mortgage is going crazy, you pay your mortgage off, right? You pay your credit cards off. You don't spend what you don't have. Right. And I think that if we can get back to those great habits, a Ralph Klein, Mike Harris type of fiscal prudence, and pay off some debt, well, then we're going to be able to start having some breathing room, right? I asked all the people out there that are listening that have a mortgage. Imagine not having a mortgage right now, how your life would be. How would that be? Right. And that's the kind of Canada that we dream of, right? We dream of not being in debt, right? We're just debt slaves unless we stop this spending. And we're not going to be able to afford houses unless we stop this mass immigration. Like, there's so many ways to fix this so quickly, right? Like, literally, if we took power, we could have the budget balanced within a year. I don't know what surplus we could get so that we could start paying off the debt. Haven't crunched those numbers or got them from Max. But if you think about it like your house, imagine you go target your credit card. Oh, honey, it's like $400 a month interest. Oh my God, that's $400 out of your pocket, right? And then all of a sudden you pay it off. Guess what? Now that debt or that loan's gone, you have $400 more extra. Imagine if we could get $400 more extra in everybody's pocket right away. Imagine what it'd be like if your gas tank was a third less. And what would happen to that money? Well, you might start spending it or pay off your debt. Hopefully you do both, because then you spur the economy. You have to start cutting the taxes because, as you pointed out, Payman, I saw it on an interview today. I can't remember the gentleman's name from Dragon's Den. He's already moving money. Like, the calls have already started. The second they did the budget, boom, that money's moved. Everyone pulling it out, and it ain't going to come back, right? And when you don't have capital, you can't build, right? So where are these people going to live? What jobs will they have, right? You're just taxing the life out of it. You're chasing all the good people away, right? You can't punish people for working hard and getting things done, right? That's just, and the country's going in the wrong direction. All you got to do is fix that. And then I think within about 5 years, you could have this place back in order again. But it would take a serious government to seriously roll back all the WEF stuff, everything just done, take the billions off the table. Let's pay off our debt. Let's not be running on a deficit. What do you think? Like, I mean, it is like a house, right? You got this credit card debt that's eating up your paycheck. You got a mortgage. Our debts are like that. Our foreign spending is like us having subscriptions to Netflix, to this, except they're really big price tags, like billions of dollars to Ukraine, millions and millions to guys to not poop on the beach. I can't believe we did that. It's still on my mind. It still is. Like, how can we spend that kind of money when I see homelessness in Hamilton that I didn't see before COVID, right? Before they ramp this up. I just,
Honestly, I was going to say is if you're going to poop in public, I would suggest pooping on the beach. As the tide comes in, it'll clean it out. Uh,
okay, but I'm not spending my money on it. Maybe they could figure that out. You know, they've lived there for a while. They must have it down. Yeah, so payment, I think we're just wasting too much money. We're just wasting money. Our credit cards are up high. We have a big mortgage and it's eating our paychecks, right? And we need to get rid of the climate hoax. Like, imagine this. You just look, Stephen's gone and all of his gaslighting about global warming, and he's gone. And then your gas tank is 50 cents a liter less to fill up. Oh, and that 50 cents, guess what happens? Your food gets cheaper, your clothes get cheaper, everything starts rolling back. So that's one policy. Boom, PPC, put that in, give us a mandate, we do that. Insta savings, you're going to feel it within the quarter, right? Insta. Then all you got to do is turn the tap off. Tonk, and let everybody's visas expire. Thanks for coming. See you later. No more illegals. Find the illegals. You're gone. Let's clean up. Let's clean up. Let's get it under control. We're going to start to go back to meritocracy. We're going to let in the people that we can afford to let in, because it's not fair to the immigrants or to us when the whole house collapses. It serves nobody, right? So let's go back to normal immigration, and let's keep it under a little bit. Let's try to make the cost of living come down so people can afford to have kids and afford to have a house. Let's keep that tap shut down for a little bit. And when I say turn the tap off, turn it off, but not all the way, just enough that we can absorb. How much money is that right there? And how much money do we spend on woke policies like anti-white, anti-Asian racism, erasing of women, mutilation of kids? Like, why are we painting $200,000 or $20,000 or whatever they spend on those sidewalks, on a pride parade? They're funding things like that, and yet they had a kids workshop for skills trades, and they didn't have the budget for that, but they had the budget to go and have a drag queen show, right? So those are the things that a true conservative, a true PPC libertarian style of government would eliminate right away. You'd feel it right away. You'd start to feel it. You'd start to feel it because your wallet would have more money, right? You wouldn't have to worry about your kid getting indoctrinated at school. Imagine the stress that would be relieved if you had a PPC government, if only you had the courage to do it. Oh my God, I don't want Trudeau. Do you have the courage to do what's right? I don't know. But if we had that power, that's what we would do. And it would help Canadians everywhere, all walks of life. Thank you.
the Michael Bator vision. You heard it here. Go vote for him, guys. I like your
It,
ideas.
it's Max inspires me. I don't know about you, but Max inspires me. He thinks a few moves ahead. That's what I really like. As a programmer, you're always trying to think of scenarios. You're always trying to think a few moves ahead. Like even like, I don't know, being a quarterback, you still got to think a few moves ahead, right? And I really appreciate that, and I really like that in Maxime as a leader, because it inspires me. It gives me that vision. It gives me that hope. And it's very exciting to be able to let people know that there is a solution. It's just do you see it, and do you have the courage to grab it? Because it's not going to happen by itself, right? Haven't been around 105 years with, like 50,000 people around and millions in the bank. So it's going to be us that makes it happen, right? And if you have that vision for the future, maybe think about joining.
Michael, I wanted to end with a question that goes in a different direction. Uh, Today or yesterday, Julian Assange, he kind of got let go, but he had to plead guilty. Um, his crime was essentially for publishing news. What's happened in the world in the last 20 years since 9/11 that we've come to this point of censorship?
Well, it would appear that the New World Order people, rebranding, Great Reset, Build Back Better crowd, the Davos guys, the guys who tell you that you have to stay home and can't see your family. But you know what? I'm going to be eating caviar and partying. Those guys, that's the problem, right? To me, I don't know how to explain it. It's I don't know. What are your thoughts on it? Like,
Let me see if I remember the question. Julian Assange, 9/11.
yeah.
Um,
Like, I mean, okay. So, what do you think's happened to our media? Right? Like, that's the question. And I think it's the people in the New World Order crowd, the Davos, the guys that are meeting, and all the big players in big ag, big pharma, big tech, big this. That club that George Carlin says we're not a part of, those guys, right? Um, so I think that they've just bought up the media. Like that would be my opinion, is they've systematically bought up the media every chance they've gotten, right? Like what are there, like 5 companies that own 90% of the media in the world? Um, so there's some kind of coordinated attack, it seems, or a plan that's not cool for us and great for them. But it seems like since George Bush, maybe even Clinton, somewhere in there, well, yeah, probably George Bush too, Clinton, it just seems like something happened that, we're not following what's best for the people. Endless wars, false flags. Let's go bomb these guys, split this country up, overthrow this. Something happened, and along the way, the media got bought with it, and Hollywood. It just seems like everybody's controlled by whoever's trying to do this "you'll own nothing and be happy" thing. What do you think? That's my opinion.
no, I 100% agree with you. And I don't want to turn this into a history lesson, but I absolutely, Bush, Clinton, sort of NAFTA, Glass-Steagall, I think that was kind of the beginning of the end stages. 9/11, they really capitalized on that, the great financial crash. I think everything that's happening is because of the fractional reserve banking system that we have. And to be perfectly honest, I'm surprised that it didn't happen earlier, because the US went off the gold standard in 71, we went off in 74, and you didn't really feel it until the 90s. But I'll be quick, but I'm a history buff, so I roll it back. I look at LBJ, I guess in the 60s with his, I think it was called the Great Society. That's a problem. I go back to FDR, all the unconstitutional things he did to enlarge the state. That's a problem. Wilson with the Federal Reserve. That's a problem. Theodore Roosevelt with the Progressives. That's a problem. And then 1860s to 1880s with the corporations in the U.S. I blame everything on progressives. I'd say progressives and then the bankers. Oh, Mike, Mike.
I think around 1890s there was, I can't remember exactly. I remember Ezra Pound, and there was some cafes where that started to become popular. And then lo and behold, the central bank of United States gets taken over after the Titanic crashes. The 3 guys that were against it, just coincidence, they hit an iceberg, just like the Lusitania, just like the PT boat. I'm getting that vibe lately from history. And so they go out there. What happens right after they solidify the central bank in America? World War I. Oh, you go. And then they fund both sides. So I don't know about you, but when I studied history, I had a different look at it when I was in my 20s and my teens. I studied a lot more then, especially in university. Um, and now I look back in hindsight, and I don't believe half the stuff I was taught. It just seems like there's different motivations for certain things to happen, and I think it's all becoming to play out now. It's just, it was always there and we didn't see it, and the veil's been lifted for some reason. So that's my take on the media. I think they're bought and paid for. There are some really great people out there. that are very honest, doing a great journalistic job, and they're the ones that get smeared as well. So I hope that everybody keeps independent journalism strong and alive because they've bought all the big stuff.
Yeah, it's a difficult time to be alive, but it's also an opportunity for people like me and you. I'd imagine if this was 20 years ago and everything was stable, they're not going to allow a PPC. Everybody would just vote for the status quo.
Well, it is tough times make strong men, they say, but it's also adversity creates creativity, right? Like you're not going to think of really, unless you're under pressure, you don't perform to your best, like in my opinion. And I think that when people are put to that pressure test, you're going to find leaders rise from that otherwise wouldn't rise, right? Like, yeah, 20 years ago, great, I'm still be playing in the basement, jamming with my buddies, headed out to the baseball tournament, having fun at the barbecue, not thinking about much, right? But now it's a totally different story now because I can't unsee what I've seen, right? And it doesn't look like it's getting any better, unless we keep fighting.
Michael, as we're wrapping up the show, I like to leave the audience with some words of optimism. So, what's your optimistic words for Canada?
There's more of us than there are of them. That's my most optimistic thing. And I will tell you, every single time that you get up, there's hope. Every single time that you give up, there is no hope. So you never give up. You always get up. You dust yourself off. And remember, the person that wins is always the guy that has the courage and strength to get up just one more time. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to keep getting up. Thanks.
Michael, where can the audience go to follow you?
You can follow me at michaelbator.com. So that's Michael, Michael, and then Bator is BATOR.com. And then you can, follow Twitter, Instagram, Facebook just by clicking links there or go on to the newsletter. Twitter's one of my favorites. I'm probably more active there. And I have a comprehensive newsletter if you're interested more in that kind of weekly read type thing. Thanks, Payman.
Mr. Bator, thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Tons of fun. I really appreciate it. I hope I can get out to Whistler and actually sit down and hang out with you in your hood one day.
Beer's on me.
Oh, I'm coming then for sure. That'll definitely cover my carry-on.
All right, my friend. Have a wonderful day. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.